The eagle didn't fly very high tonight, unfortunately. Incredible defeat for Lazio that it's out from the Europe League. Very, very disappointed. It's going to be hard to talk just after the match, but we'll try to do our best. I'm Vittorio Campanile, with me, Alistair Mackenzie. Hello, Alistair. How are you?
Angry, frustrated, shocked, disappointed. Lots of things, really.
Yeah, I can imagine. Especially because Lazio scored at the beginning of the second half, and the match could have ended there instead again. And this is not the first time Lazio allowed the team to score immediately, 1 minute and 20 seconds afterwards. And even if in the other matches like Sassuolo, etc., this didn't affect the final result, tonight I thought it made a massive difference because Salzburg gained confidence and started pushing more and more and more.
Yeah, and I know it's the week of European comebacks and everything, but this was different because this isn't a case of... I mean, my big fear for tonight was Salzburg coming out and scoring a goal in the opening 5-10 minutes, in which case Lazio would have been rattled. But Lazio are 1-0 up after 55 minutes, away to have this lead of 5-2 on aggregate. From that position, you should never be losing a game. I mean, to then concede 4 goals it's beyond me. I mean, we've known all season long that this team has a problem defensively, but for it to be exposed the way it was tonight, and I have to say, not against a particularly impressive team, it's really, really stunned me how this has happened.
And Salzburg scored 3 goals in 6 minutes, 72, 74, 76, so even less. Yeah. So it's simply embarrassing. And I thought the performance of a couple of players were really embarrassing. De Vrij was terrible. The first goal, he made the mistake and put Luis Felipe in trouble. The third one, again, he's missing the man. And on the fourth, it's simply unacceptable that a player is free in the goalkeeper's box. So, but yeah, De Vrij was simply unbelievable. And to be honest, Salzburg had a chance 5 minutes before, and he missed completely. He didn't mark the man that I don't remember who was headed wide. Just Dabur headed just a couple of centimeters wide. So terrible performance by De Vrij, and it's bad because he should be the player with more experience, one of the leaders, one of the best players. And you know, when something like that happen, one of your top players play like that is in a such important team, then you know it's really tough for the others.
I think De Vrij wasn't great tonight, but I think the problem goes beyond him and his individual performance. I said on Sunday that after the Udinese game that in the first half of that match, or at least the opening kind of 25 minutes, the Lazio defence was so open. And yeah, we were playing a more attacking lineup then, but there were so many holes for Udinese to exploit then. And I said at the time, if that was a more clinical team, we would have been punished for it. And we saw the same structural problems tonight. It was far too easy for Salzburg to get through us in the second half. The thing I just don't understand is how that's happened after half-time. You know, you're in a good position in the game. They haven't been conceding too many chances. There haven't been many individual errors. First half had gone fine. I said at half-time it's dull and that's what we want. It's worrying to see the way the team collapsed because it was a mental collapse as much as anything after that second goal went in, and that's incredibly worrying when we've got such a big game coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, and again they scored, and then we had the goal of Immobile that was disallowed for offside, but it was it looks very clear that it was an offside. And then Luis Alberto missed an incredible chance. The only good thing Felipe Anderson did in all this match tonight, and Luis Alberto passed the ball to the goalkeeper. That's another incredible mistake. And then, you can understand that after all this, they score immediately, then you collapse. Even though you had players of experience, so this shouldn't happen. But I don't know. It's hard to understand what happened because I blame De Vrij, but all the teams stopped playing after the third goal of Salzburg, and you had time to recover, but Lazio didn't play any more football.
Well, it's quite interesting. I've just seen Senad Lulic has been speaking to the media afterwards, and he said it wasn't a physical issue with the team, but a psychological one, and that the team had a blackout and everything went wrong. So, backs up what I've just said, but losing concentration for a 15-minute spell is one thing, but to concede 4 goals in that time is another thing. I mean...
Yes, and De Vrij made a mistake. I thought the second goal, Strakosha could have done better. On the third one, there is the deflection of Radu, and again, the line didn't move well. On the fourth one, the player was completely alone. So, maybe the team was a little bit tired, but mentally they collapsed. And, every goal they score is a mistake of a Lazio player. I think that's the reason why they score so much. And, it's simply unacceptable. Even because I thought in the first half Lazio didn't play very well, but I got the impression they were in control. The match was pretty much under control of Lazio. And in the second half, when Salzburg started to push more, I thought Lazio could have won it because they had so much space. Ciro Immobile had so much space that, we know how Immobile could be so dangerous when he has space. And instead, Lazio disappeared.
Yeah, and I think the forward players have to take a bit of blame for this as well. Obviously, the goals we conceded were terrible, but Immobile had chances to score more goals than he did tonight. Alberto had a really good chance he should have scored from. And, the chances that we didn't score were better chances than the ones that they did score. These are big differences in the course of a 2-leg tie.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And, one of the questions that Sky was asking at Lulic is, you still have players of experience in the team because, Lulic, it's an experienced player, Parolo, etc. But anyway, they collapse. So that's the biggest question because it's true that I don't know. We're going to talk about Inzaghi as well. I thought Milinkovic-Savic didn't play well. I totally get it. I think it's not a mystery, and it's not the first time since he came back from the injury. But I thought in this type of match, it was better to take off Luis Alberto and bring Felipe Anderson like he did in the first leg, than take off Milinkovic-Savic. This is because Milinkovic-Savic is more physical and can defend better than Luis Alberto, as we saw.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I also think another call he got wrong was, we've seen this before from Inzaghi, is that when he needs goals, sometimes his last resort is just throwing on all his attacking players at once, and there's clearly no structure. And you know what? We still had enough time there. We needed 1 goal to take that to extra time. Whether we would have wanted extra time or not is another question. But the fact is we have 15 minutes to score a goal on a team that is very good as an attacking unit. And what he's done is taken off Lucas Leiva, who's the one player providing balance in that team, and put on Nani, who's been utterly ineffective his entire stint at Lazio. And there was just no threat at all. I mean, Felipe Anderson was completely useless and so wasteful. It's like he didn't realise the situation he was in. But there's no fluidity to that attack when he just throws all those players on together and hopes for the best. So yeah, I was disappointed with Inzaghi tonight for both those reasons.
Yes, I was disappointed when he took off Leiva. Probably he should have taken off one of the central defender, maybe De Vrij after his terrible performance. But this is one of the problems with Felipe Anderson. He's such a skilled player, talented player, but he's not able to read the match often. And tonight it was the perfect example, right? He made a couple of stupid passes when he could get in the box and maybe shot or pass it afterwards. That's one of the problems with Felipe Anderson. But again, even Immobile missed some chances tonight. And the other players pretty much disappeared. Lukaku came in and didn't do absolutely nothing. And again, he's one that, if he has space, can be really dangerous. A disaster. And he took the place of Basta, who I thought was playing badly. But Lukaku made me change my mind, Basta played much better than him. It was completely incredible defeat.
I think it'll tell us a lot about this team, how they react now on Sunday, because they've got a real point to prove. I mean, you couldn't have two teams going into this derby in more different moods, really. But both of those emotions can be very powerful, and the elation that Roma will be feeling from what they achieved, and the anger that Lazio will be achieving, and they will be feeling from what they didn't achieve. So, in a way, it's the ideal fixture to be next, because it's a way of getting your season back on track immediately if it goes right. But I mean, I have to say, it's not exactly filling me with optimism.
Yeah, especially because Roma had 2 days more to recover energy. So, and that will, I hope it won't, but it can make a big difference in a so important match like the derby. So you have to see if it's a mentally a problem for Lazio or even a physically. I'm really concerned. I don't think it's. I thought Lazio, like pretty much all the top team of Serie A, are a little bit tired, but today was the level of the second half, the mind probably that simply went off after the first goal.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's an excuse in it at all for what's happened. I don't think the team looked tired tonight. I think the first half was played at quite a slow pace, and it was quite a broken up half of football, so I don't think it was a particularly draining one for them. Likewise, I don't think the Udinese game on Sunday was played at very high tempo. I don't think that was a very tiring game for them. So they should be fine physically. Like Lulic said, they were fine, and it's a psychological one, but it's a real worry. And
yeah,
if there is a mentality issue with these players who aren't capable of responding to difficult situations like that, then that's going to be a big obstacle to actually achieving anything by the end of the season.
I think the fact that one of the so-called leader, De Vrij, had a meltdown didn't help the others. I thought that was a reason. And as you said, taking off Leiva, you can understand it tactically, but you're taking probably the real leader of this team, and the fact that Lazio didn't do nothing afterwards, it's more than a signal. Now I don't remember what happened when all the time that Leiva came out, but I thought now he's more than a leader. He's so important, so valuable for this team. And when he goes out, I think a leadership was missing. And I don't know if the problem is that these players are good, are strong, but haven't got that mentality. That when you go down, they have the strength to recover without Lucas Leiva.
Yeah, and honestly, I think taking him off tonight was one of the worst decisions I've seen Inzaghi make. That didn't make any sense to me. It's like a child's idea of management: take off a defensive player for an attacking player and hope for the best. I mean, that's what it came across as. Honestly, it didn't make any sense to me.
Well, I thought it's a desperate move, so you can understand.
Yeah, but there's still time, there's still time in that game. And we've seen before, there's no balance and there's no structure when he does that.
Yeah.
He's done it before.
Yes. I was disappointed even from Nani. He has the experience. He came in. I was expecting something from him. He was a disaster. And even in the last 8 minutes, he had a ball and I don't know what he did. He lost the ball badly. Very, very disappointed because, we're talking about him not having that many chances. This was clearly a big chance. He has the experience, so, you wouldn't expect a player like him who won the Champions League to lose control in that type of situation. But he came in and Lazio was playing like 10 men with him. So, I defended him a lot in the past. I thought tonight it was terrible and explained why he's not playing. I was a little bit surprised that Caicedo didn't come in after his last performance.
Yeah, I would have preferred Caicedo to Nani tonight, and that says a lot about how Nani's played for Lazio. I mean, I said earlier on, he's really just not been good enough. And I think he's come with a reputation, and that's helped him get more opportunities than maybe other players might have done from the bench. But his chances have been limited, his minutes have been limited, and now you can, by this point of the season, you can really understand why, which is that he's a pretty limited player, or at least he is in this system. I've just, the moments he's actually made an impact have been so rare that it's almost impossible to make an argument to keep him for next season. And I was really quite surprised in a way. I know he kind of has to do this anyway, but I was kind of surprised still to see Guattari before the game saying that the club still has a lot of faith in him and they're going to evaluate his position at the end of the season and see what they're going to do with him. There's absolutely no way that Lazio should be keeping him on permanently into next season.
Yeah, he's been really bad. Well, he scored some goals, but we were talking about small teams, etc. Again, when he played in big matches, except the first one against Juventus, I thought he was really bad, and so that's didn't count in his favor. And I don't know why tonight, especially, you take off Milinkovic-Savic, so you're attacking. You need someone tall that can be in the box and with a header score. So I thought Caicedo could have been the good option there instead of Nani. So I don't know what Inzaghi had in mind. Greek staff on Twitter: bad decision by Simone Inzaghi to take out Lucas Leiva in favor of Nani. De Vrij and Milinkovic-Savic have been underperforming lately as well. Felipe Anderson is usual mercurial, inconsistent self. Yeah, we said it, I thought Lucas Leiva was the best player of Lazio. I thought Ramos again played well. He was unlucky in the deflection, but yeah, I thought he was of the defender the one that had less responsibility. I don't know.
No, I wasn't convinced by Ramos tonight. I thought he had a bad game. I thought he was as responsible for the defensive collapses as everyone else, and when it came to the pressure being on, I think his inexperience showed. And even something simple like at the end of the match when he tries to play it back to Strakosha and he plays it out for a corner kick and that's the end of the game. It's simple mistakes, simple decisions like that you need to get right. I wasn't impressed with him tonight, but I wasn't impressed with anyone tonight.
Are you ready for Rami Algendi?
Oh God, here we go.
So let's start. This is really no words to describe the shit players and defense. Keep saying it over and over again. Inzaghi doesn't even learn from mistakes. Inzaghi logic: play Nani, who haven't had any game time all season in a situation like this. And then the game alone tells the true story of these players and how awful manager. Bad defense the whole season, nothing done to change it. Bad substitution again, and once again never learns from his mistakes. So you can imagine he's not very happy.
He's not. He's rarely very happy though. I think Inzaghi does deserve a bit of criticism for reasons we've just gone through. I would say calling him an awful manager is going too far. I think the obvious criticisms that he's made there, though, are true, which is that the defence has been a problem all season and it's still not getting better. And now we've conceded 60 goals this season. And it's so easy to focus on how many goals we've scored and all the record-breaking numbers, but conceding 60 goals is terrible. Really, really bad. And on top of that, I do agree with the point that he's not learning from his mistakes. I mean, I don't think he's been flexible enough tactically, and like I said earlier, I think when it comes to needing that goal, I think he's been a bit naive.
Yes, he said that playing twice a week doesn't allow him to change tactics. This is his excuse. I don't think so, because we see other teams doing it, like Juventus and so on, just for example. So I think Lazio can do it. Probably the truth is he's not convinced that switching to the four-man defense will change something. Or maybe he thinks that with Radu playing with three defenders, central defenders, is better for him and for the team. I don't know. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I don't even mean that, though. I don't mean such a big change as going from a back three to a back four. I just mean in the same way that he did last season, where he switches between a 3-5-2, 3-4-1-1, 3-3-4-1-2, just various ways of setting up the attack in the midfield, basically, to kind of have different ways of exploiting spaces against certain teams. And it's been so rigid all season long, basically, that we've not seen any of that experimentation or that kind of fluidity. I think it's been quite easy to actually, counter Lazio's threat if you did a bit of homework on them, because you pretty much always know how we're going to line up and what system we're going to play.
Yes, I agree, and this is something we talked already in the past. And I thought, for example, Salzburg in the first half played with 4-3-3. That surprised a little bit Simone Inzaghi, and this pushed Lazio to play with a 5 defender, because Basta and Lulic were in line with the 3 central defender, and this was a problem. And this tells you how it's complicated to play with this tactic when a team plays with 3 strikers, and we saw it especially in the first half that Lazio was too behind and couldn't attack. I agree. Inzaghi should have been more, and he did it last year. Switching continuously tactics, and I still believe that Lazio has those type of players to do it. Radu can play left or central. Milinkovic can change position, Lukaku, and so on. So I think Lazio has the player. I don't know why he's convinced that they cannot do it. Or maybe it's a request from the players. It could be easily that De Vrij said, I want to play in this position and feel more confident playing with the 3 defenders. I don't know. That could be an option. In the meantime, Christopher Thomas says, Ramos was terrible, Vittorio. Please don't defend him. Okay, I will stop.
You've been told.
Yeah. Vildan Glavas, time to change the 3-man defense. We clearly don't have quality for it. 40 goals against only in Serie A speaks for itself. Ciro can score as much as the defense let him. Now, I don't know. I don't think we lost because we played with a 3-5-2. I thought we lost because we made individual mistakes. And this is something that happened regularly in the last 4 or 5 months. I don't think it's a tactic issue. It's the mistake. De Vrij goes completely wrong in the first one. On the third one, he doesn't follow his men, and so on. So I don't think it's the tactic. It's simply the players that have blackouts during the match.
I do think the organisation could improve. I think the gaps between the three central defenders were too large, and that was giving them too much space to try and move into, particularly for the third goal. And I suppose that comes out of the wing-backs pushing further up, and it means that the two centre-backs on either side have more space to kind of move into on each side. But you need those wing-backs to provide an attacking threat as well as a defensive one. So I think the structure is built to be defensively sound, but you've got to remember that Simone Inzaghi is a former striker. I mean, this isn't going to be his area of expertise because he knows how to score goals. He doesn't necessarily know how to stop goals being scored. I mean, hopefully, I'd like to see him, if he's still not finding the answers to this problem, perhaps bring in a coach, defensive coach of some sort who can actually help sort this team out, because I think structurally there is a big problem. There has to be if you've conceded that many goals in one season.
Faris is the tactician of Inzaghi. He prepares the defense, so I think he has someone for that. I still think that there are individual mistakes that cost us the qualification tonight. I still believe that Lazio should be a little bit more elastic, changing tactics. But let's not forget that even playing 3-5-2, if Luis Alberto scores tonight, probably Lazio goes through and doesn't lose the match. This is football. We can talk for 2 hours, and then, if they give the second goal of Immobile that wasn't offside, then probably we are talking about a heroic performance of Lazio that beat Salzburg and went through the semi-final, which didn't happen.
Yeah, it's a shame to have to talk about what ifs, but
yeah, I know.
You're right, the chances were there to be taken, and they weren't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we blame the defense, but we don't have to forget that Immobile had a good chance before scoring, and Luis Alberto missed an incredible chance. So, it's not only the defense. We have to blame all the team tonight. And there's the derby Sunday. I don't know. Do you think that the team is going to bounce back and perform, or do you think this could be a collapse that's going to carry on in the league?
I would like to think that the team's going to bounce back. I mean, it's a huge game, and it was always a huge game anyway. But after what happened last weekend and the fact we've drawn level points with them made it even bigger. But now that we're out of Europe, it's another step. It's even bigger than that, because this is all we're playing for now is a top four finish. And in this run-in, we've got to play Roma and Inter, the two teams we're up against for these top four spots. So these are going to be the games that decide whether we make it or not. And to be honest, by this stage, I think now that this has happened in the Europa League, I would say that finishing our European campaign this way and dropping to fifth in the league would be a disappointing season. And it's a shame because it hasn't felt like the way that the season's been going. It felt like in one of those two competitions we were going to do something meaningful, but I think in order to achieve that, we're going to have to pull out a result this weekend. I don't know. I can only hope that Inzaghi has the ability to use his man management skills, which are one of his greatest assets, and actually get this team up for it and get them to forget about what's just happened and focus on the next task and really actually, bring some pride back to that shirt, because there's one way of bouncing back from a humiliation, and that's to win a derby. I mean, I hate to think what it's going to be like if we lose to Roma after this week, where they're already going to be gloating enough with how things have gone.
Yes, I thought tonight it was clear that to compete in so many competitions, Lazio still needs some quality players. We were talking about Lukaku, who came in and pretty much didn't do nothing, but Basta wasn't doing nothing at all before. So you can see that there are players missing to compete at this level for Lazio. So this summer is going to be really important for Lotito and Tare to buy those players, keep, if possible, Milinkovic-Savic, and at the same time buy other players to build a better team. I don't know if Immobile was too tired, and that's the reason why he missed those chances, or Luis Alberto was a little bit fatigued. But I think what we saw this season is that the starting 11 are good. You can still improve them, but the biggest issue are the subs that not all the time have proved to be quality as the starters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, I think in order to actually be able to achieve that in the transfer market and bring in those quality players, we're going to have to finish in the top four. In order to actually reach that next level of signing, I think we're going to have to be able to sell them the Champions League. And in order to actually keep a guy like Milinkovic-Savic at the club, we might have to be able to say we've got the Champions League for him as well. Or else if a huge offer comes in for him in the summer, he might be more interested in it than he would be otherwise. So, it's this last month or so is huge, not only for what we're achieving this season, but for what we're going to be able to do in the summer in the transfer market, I think, as well.
Yes, I agree. Mose Alabin on our Spreaker channel. I don't know why Inzaghi pushed Lukaku instead of Basta. You must have a player good at defense. That was a stupid move. Nani didn't do anything in all season. What can he do in 8 minutes? Casado definitely would have made a change. I was surprised that Lukaku came in, honestly. As I said, Basta wasn't playing amazing, but you can expect from, what you can expect from Basta, when he's playing. He's very careful. He's not going to be, your assist man, etc. But he's very careful when he defends. So I was a little bit surprised that have been the first sub Inzaghi made. I thought it was better to bring in Felipe Anderson instead of Luis Alberto. I don't know, Alistair. No, you have been criticizing Inzaghi a lot tonight, but what about this?
Well, I think when I saw the change with Anderson coming on from Milinkovic-Savic, I thought that basically what Lazio had been looking to do all night, and not just tonight actually, but in the first leg as well, was to get Ciro Immobile to time his runs in behind that defence, because Salzburg are playing such a high line that he was able to find that space if he gets in behind. And that's how the goal eventually came about, and how the disallowed goal would have come about as well. And so I thought basically it could turn out to be a masterstroke, because Alberto, from a deeper position, is more capable of picking out those passes, those through balls, than anyone else in that midfield. And if he had Anderson up there alongside Immobile, he had two very quick guys up front to aim for instead of just one, because I think Immobile was being quite easily trapped by the Salzburg defence. Obviously, it didn't work out that way, but in my mind at the time, at least, that's what I thought he was probably aiming for. I don't know, in terms of the Basta Lukaku change, I was surprised by that as well. I think I thought at first it must be because Basta's got a fitness problem where he's not fully fit, just because he's never fully fit. But I don't know if that's actually the case or not.
Yeah, it was funny because it was Lulic, the player, that was eventually not fit. So I thought he was going out. So I was surprised. Again, we said it, not that many options. Lukaku wasn't fit. The rumors was that he was able to play only 40 minutes. I didn't think he played even 40 minutes tonight. He was terrible. Maruzic was out injured. Lulic, we said that he played but wasn't in great condition. So Patrick was out. So really, Lazio didn't have that many options. And this brings me back to the question, why didn't we change tactics, especially if you struggle with the wingers? Then let's go back to a 4-3-3 eventually with Felipe Anderson playing from the start, That's another question that pops out when you think about all these problems.
Well, it'd be another really interesting thing about this summer is whether we see Inzaghi realise that that's something he wants to address and coach his team into being able to swap between back three, back four, and be more flexible that way. Because like you said before, his excuse this season has basically been that he doesn't have enough time, and that is a fair excuse because pretty much since January we've had a game every 3 days, so you don't have time to coach your team into an entirely new system and method. But I don't know. I think he needs to find different responses to certain situations. He is still a young coach, so he is still learning things as he goes and coming across new situations. And, going this far into Europe is a new situation, and especially away to a team who have as good a record as Salzburg do. They've not lost a game there in any competition since November 2016, so it's not like you're playing a provincial team.
No, absolutely. And as you said, he's a young manager. He has to learn from experience. And I don't know if you and our followers agree with me. I thought he started struggling when he had to pick up players. At the beginning of the season, he hadn't had that many options because Felipe Anderson was injured, Nani wasn't available, and so on. Now that he started to have more options, I thought he started making some mistakes in picking the wrong team in some occasion. That can be normal, He's a young manager. He needs to learn. But I thought that's probably one of his biggest mistakes this season.
Yeah, it was strange in a way that the best form Lazio have been on has been when we've had the most injuries.
Yeah.
But I suppose it did just make his job easier in terms of selection. But it's obviously better to have a bigger, healthier squad. But I think you're probably right. He's been looking for the answer for a while, and he's never really settled on anything. I think Alberto playing in the midfield three has worked at times, but not worked at other times, and also he's been moving between the two positions. Anderson's never... He's been making a good impact, but he's never had a very regular run starting games. So I think you're right. He's not really settled on one thing he wants to do. Perhaps that's been part of the problem.
And one of the examples is what I thought, maybe I'm completely wrong, but if you remember, in the first leg, he took off Luis Alberto to bring in Felipe Anderson. And after the match, he said, I had the option, I prefer to keep Milinkovic-Savic, etc. I thought tonight he took off Milinkovic-Savic because he thought, in the other game, I took off Luis Alberto and he wasn't happy. So, I have to consider both players. And so I take off Milinkovic-Savic tonight instead of Luis Alberto. So I did 1-1. And same thing why he brought in Nani today instead of Caicedo, because Nani pretty much didn't play nothing all in the last matches. I don't know. That's my thought when I saw this substitution. And probably I'm completely wrong, but that's my thought.
Well, I don't think it helps that you've got, Alberto being subbed off on Sunday and complaining, saying it's always me who's subbed off, and earlier on this season you've got Lulic who's complaining about being subbed off, and I don't know if that's as a result of Inzaghi being a bit too close to the squad, and I think he's got a very good relationship with them because they see him almost on a level, in terms of being a former player and more close to their age range. But I think he has to be able to maintain that authoritarian status to a certain extent, and if players are able to actually complain about being substituted and let that affect his decision making, that's a real problem. I'm not convinced it will be doing that, but it has been strange to see that happen a few times this season, that players have so clearly been complaining about being substituted even when games are going well, and so I think in a long season you just have to accept that. I don't know why that's been an issue, but it has raised its head a few times.
Yeah. Or maybe he's thinking even about how many minutes they played, to keep them fresh as more than making always the same substitution and taking him off the same player. I don't know, but the fact is that I think he has to tweak something to keep Lazio performing well in this end of the season. And there is a positive thing. After this bad defeat, you want to play immediately to take revenge, to forget what you do and show everybody that you are better than that. So there's a derby in 3 days, and that's a big chance for them. Obviously, there's the question how they will react to this bad performance. But hopefully, they want to show everybody that they are a good team and they can play a good derby and maybe get 3 points.
I've just had a comment on Twitter from Walid Mohammed, actually. He said that Strakosha needs to be dropped, but the problem is that there's no one on the bench. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I was thinking, I like a lot Strakosha, but I was thinking that in the last month or so, he hasn't been that great. Now, this is something normal, especially considering he's a very young goalkeeper. Drop, I think, is too much, honestly. But yeah, maybe focus a little bit more, because the second goal, he could have stopped it, honestly. He made a nice save in the first half, but I thought that he could have done something more in the last matches, not only tonight. And as you said, if you drop him, who does he play? I think Guerrieri is the better option than Vargic, but I don't think he's ready. Or it's anyway a big risk, especially considering that Lazio still have to fight for the Champions League spot. And I don't see an easy match from now on. That's why it's really important to win the derby, because Lazio has a tough fixture, more harder than Roma and Inter has. So, Lazio have to win the next match to take advantage, because afterwards it's going to be tougher than the Roma and Inter.
Yeah, I think if we're going to be critical of Inzaghi tonight, another thing that surprised me is that he's not at any point this season given Guerrieri a chance just to test him out and to see how he reacts to playing first team football. Because if anything happened to Strakosha now, if there was an injury problem, it would be a complete gamble, because we don't have any goalkeepers who are going to step up. I mean, if you take Marchetti out of the equation, who clearly is out of the equation, I was surprised not to see a different goalkeeper come in for the group stage games or for the Coppa Italia early rounds, which is pretty commonplace in terms of a selection move from a coach, and I doubt would have upset Strakosha too much. So yeah, I agree that is an issue, and if Strakosha's form is dipping, I don't think you want him to feel too comfortable in his position, but he'll be feeling completely comfortable there right now, because there's just no threat of anybody taking it off him.
I don't know. I think he doesn't feel comfortable, or he shouldn't be feeling comfortable, because there's still the summer transfer, Lazio can still sign a player this summer, a goalkeeper this summer, and Strakosha could lose his job if he's not performing well in the last month or so, especially because there's still a lot at stake for Lazio in the coming month. So I believe that he has to step up. To be honest, it's physiological, especially for a young goalkeeper, to have a period where he's not amazing. I thought Strakosha globally had a very good season, but he made a couple of slightly mistake, not terrible mistakes, but a little bit of mistakes in the recent weeks. So Grigioni should be working harder on Strakos and see if he can improve.
Yeah. Looking ahead to the derby, what team would you go with?
That's a tough question. I was surprised, honestly, to see Cáceres on the bench and not Bastos and Wallace. And again, Cáceres is fit now, but he didn't have a chance in the last month. That's a little bit of mystery. I thought tonight he could have played and give Luis Felipe a rest, even because we're talking about experience. He has big experience, so, you know.
I read something about Cáceres, and you'll probably be able to tell me if this is complete bullshit or not. But apparently there's a clause in his deal with Verona that if he plays a certain number of minutes, he's obligated to sign for Lazio at the end of the season. And I read a story saying that Inzaghi hasn't been convinced by him and therefore doesn't want to play him in these games so that he doesn't reach a certain amount of minutes. I don't know if you know anything more about that.
Yes, it's true. I think he has to play a certain amount of match to be automatically renewed with Lazio. But, I don't think that's a problem. If he thinks he's good enough, then I would try him.
Yeah, I suppose the suggestion is that he clearly doesn't think he's good enough. Which I'm surprised by. I mean, Cáceres, he's not played an awful lot of games, but he hasn't been particularly brilliant in the games he's played, but he's also not been particularly worse than everybody else.
No, that's a
when
fact.
we first got him in January, that we both thought he was going to be an excellent addition because he's very versatile as well. So I've been a bit disappointed that he's not been getting more opportunities because, if looking for next season and more squad depth, I think he'd be a good option to have.
And we were all convinced that would happen, right? That he would be the solution for Lazio problems in defense. Instead, Ramos have stepped up and took the place of Wallace and Bastos, where we were thinking that Cáceres could be that type of player. So that's disappointed. As is disappointed Nani. We all thought that Nani could have been the player that could make the difference. Instead, he's not, and he struggled to find some minutes. So, two of the signing that we thought could have been a big signing that could have made a real difference, they are not. They haven't. So, that's disappointed. Going back to the derby, I don't know. In defense, probably I will start the same players: Ramos, De Vrij, and Radu. Midfield, I would probably keep it like that. I would change the wingers, if possible, Marusic if he's fit. And I don't know. Do you start Luis Alberto or Felipe Anderson? That's the biggest question. Seeing Luis Alberto tonight, probably I would try Felipe Anderson from the beginning. As when he starts from the beginning, Felipe Anderson is better than when he comes in.
Yeah, I suppose the other option would be to put Alberto in midfield and drop Milinkovic-Savic, which we talked about on Sunday a little bit. But I think in terms of the derby game, it would be quite useful to have Milinkovic-Savic's versatility. I mean, on form, I think he's behind those other two. But yeah, I don't know. I think in a way it's very likely that Inzaghi's going to pick the same team more or less, pick his kind of tried and trusted team, and just ask for more from them.
I think Milinkovic-Savic you need it because he's strong and he can help you with his body and with the long balls as well. While Felipe Anderson and Luis Alberto are different. Probably, as you said, they are in better form, but the body, the ability on the air of Milinkovic-Savic could be really important in a derby. So I would play Milinkovic-Savic.
Yeah, I agree. It's it's um, it's just hard to know how much Inzaghi might look to kind of counteract certain threats within the Roma team, but I don't think that's the right way of going about doing things. I think he's better off looking at our own strengths and yeah, just shoring up that defence. I mean, finding some way of ensuring that they're a bit better organised because, have been in other games this season. The Juventus game, for example, in Rome. Obviously, Dybala got that late winner, but for most of that game, they didn't. Well, that was their first shot on target, wasn't it? So, you know, we need more of those kind of performances in that organisation.
Yes, I think Lazio has to prepare very carefully the match. I hope that with Inzaghi, Lazio will stay very focused on the match. I remember the derbies with Pioli that Lazio pretty much didn't play. It was like a friendly match for them. I believe with Inzaghi this problem won't happen again. But, I couldn't expect that meltdown tonight. So anything can happen in football. But I hope this team will learn from the mistakes of tonight.
Yeah, let's hope so. There's nothing else for it.
Yeah. I think we can wrap it up here, right? After this great night. Or you have some stats that you forgot to say even tonight?
Well, no, I mean, my only stat tonight was a very depressing one that I brought out earlier about conceding 60 goals this season. So it's not a happy Felipe Caicedo one this time. Hopefully on Sunday there'll be something a bit more optimistic.
Yeah. Let's hope next Sunday after the derby we can be a little bit more happier, because at the moment that's all left for Lazio this season, right? The fight for the Champions League spot. And let's be honest, we said that this week was really important for Lazio. It didn't start very well. Let's hope it's finished better. And let's not forget that then next Wednesday there is Fiorentina-Lazio, another very, very important match, and comes just 3 days after the derby. So not a lot of time to recover. So let's hope that Inzaghi can find the right solution, give rest to some of the players that are tired, and put always the best formation in the pitch. Thank you very much, Alistair. We're going to talk then next Sunday after the derby.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully that's going to be a more upbeat one.
Yeah, let's hope so. Thank you very much, everybody, and remember to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, on Spreaker, and our YouTube channel.
Watching us so